Hola, doctor.
Hola, ¿qué tal, Denise? ¿Cómo estás?
Bien. ¿Y usted? Un poquito nerviosa, pero bien.
Ah, ah, pues ya en la última recta del año.
Sí.
Tú estás finalizando el cuarto semestre.
Ajá. Sí, estoy con Marisela.
Ok.
Eh, no sé si tuve oportunidad de ver el documento. Me voy a titular por artículo.
Sí, lo vi, lo revisé muy rápido, pero ya vi el esquema que traes. Bueno, traes dos ahí, digamos, empujados, ¿no?
Sí, uno ya está enviado.
Ajá,
Ujú.
ajá.
Y el otro, pues, es un borrador ahí más o menos, que de hecho todavía no me han revisado, porque el enviado tenemos, ya lo revisaron, nos lo devolvieron con consideraciones, y entonces tenemos que devolver esas, entonces ahorita le estamos dando prioridad a ese. Entonces esa es la idea. Mm, y pues ya, pero de hecho el último es el que de plano no tengo, qué es lo que es, cómo lo voy a hacer, que es el que va a unir todos los conceptos, pues. Pero los otros tres sí están, pues la idea principal, de hecho, sí, del segundo también ya está muy avanzada.
Ah, bueno, pero tienes tiempo.
Sí, pues
Todavía.
ojalá. Me preocupan lo de los tiempos de publicación,
Ujú. Sí,
pero
ten cuidado con algunos journals que se tardan, ¿no?
sí, me estoy fijando mucho en eso, pues al elegir la revista, pero pues no sé en qué dependa ahí, pues los doctores me están aconsejando cuáles podrían ser. Y la idea es, espero, para este semestre ya enviar los otros dos, y porque son tres publicados, dijeron que en desarrollo regional es más la exigencia que en ciencias. Entonces
Ujú.
son tres publicados. Entonces, pues tengo que tenerlos ya publicados para el 22. Entonces espero poder en este semestre que sigue ya enviarlos para que tengan año y medio para ser publicados.
Ok, muy bien.
Más o menos así está la idea. Y ahorita el doctor estaba en otra revisión de mis compañeros. Yo me imagino que en eso anda.
Pues no se ha conectado nadie todavía.
La doctora me está mandando un mensaje. Sí, la doctora de la de Estados Unidos. Y me dice que está bajando la aplicación. Como que nunca había usado.
Terry,
Sí.
Terry.
Sherry. Ajá, la doctora Sherry Bauman. Y a ver cómo está, porque me quería ir, este siguiente semestre me quería ir a estancia con ella, pero pues ya no sé, no le veo posibilidad.
¿Dónde está ella,
¿En Tucson?
Ah, en la Universidad de Arizona.
Sí. Sí, ya he ido varias veces a visitarla y echamos pláticas y planes y todo. Y ya habíamos hablado de la estancia para este semestre que sigue, pero pues no creo que se vaya a poder en este semestre y ojalá que se pueda antes de terminar el doctorado.
Recording is on.
Hello, can you hear us? Okay.
Is my microphone on?
Yes.
Okay. I've never used this particular app, and this morning I had to use Microsoft Teams, which I haven't used before, so my computer is getting a workout.
Like everybody else.
This is the app that we are using in my, well, in the center where I study. This is why.
Yeah, it seems like everybody has a preference. You know, my university gives us Zoom, so I use Zoom. This other group used Microsoft Teams, so we use that. So we're all having to become very flexible and very techy.
activada.
Hola, doctor.
Hola, hola, buena tarde.
Buenas tardes.
¿Qué tal, Ángel?
¿Qué tal? ¿Estamos listos? ¿Estamos listos todos?
¿Sí?
Entonces vamos a empezar con tu presentación, ¿no?
Sí. Mm,
Para que es el panorama de tu tesis, ¿no?
sí, como la vez pasada presento, bueno, la presentación está en español, la presento en inglés. Entonces voy a comenzar. Estoy tratando de compartirla. Me dicen cuando la puedan ver.
¿Ya?
Okay. I'm going to start with my presentation, that is cyberbullying and its relationship with cybernetic moral disengagement and bias-based cyber aggression in school adolescents. With my director, Jose Ángel Vera Noriega, my co-director, Dr. Sherry Bauman, and asesores, I don't know the word, Dr. Pablo Wong, and Doctora Marta Olivia Peña. In Mexico, the increase in violence in schools and its consequences has generated an increase in research of face-to-face bullying. This results in creation of programs that promote coexistence in schools. However, the society is evolving with this, new forms of violence such as cyberbullying has appeared. Internet use has increased, and with this, attacks through the electronic context have increased, with negative consequences for those involved becoming a psychosocial problem with great repercussions for children and adolescents. Some of these problems, consequences, are for both victims and for aggressors. Even though, and we know this, even though the investigation, that the majority of the evidence is for victims more than aggressors. We know that this problem cause them mental health problems, moderate or severe depression and anxiety, substance use, ideation and suicide attempt. And with this, some of risk factors are involved. One of the most important are the motive, the motive why the aggressors do this aggression, and it's bias-based bullying. This investigation about this risk factor is also, they are also focused on victims. One of these investigation is on LGBTQ. Well, not one, but a lot of these investigation are on LGBTQ youth, and the evidence shows percentages that talk from 10 to 71%, and they talk about, if you are cyber aggressed and bias-based aggressed, the problematics are more. So the academic problem, the substance use, and suicide attempt are more. So the problematic is bigger. Another risk factor that is relevant is moral disengagement. High levels of moral disengagement are associated with the perpetuation of cyberbullying. However, are discrepancies on the results because the moral disengagement measure that are being used are not adapted to the cybernetic context, the most of the measures. Another relevant thing is prevalence, and this is a discussion that has been important for more than a decade, with values that comes from 1% to 72%. But this research is present in first world values. The most of the investigations are from United States, Europe, and some of them are from Asia. But Latin America needs, there are lack of investigation here, but we do have some of this, and we know that the problematic is present, and we have this discussion too with 2% or for more than 40%. But we need more investigation because only 19 publications from 2010 and 2016 denote that we don't know so much from this part of the world. The high heterogeneity maybe it's caused because the discrepancies on the definition. We are going to talk more about this later. But what do we know? We know in connectivity and cyberbullying in Mexico, thanks to INEGI that has the national survey on the availability and use of information technology in homes. We know that more than 65% of the population in Mexico use internet, and from this 73.5% use cell phones, and from this 80% use smartphone. And the state with more connectivity on all the country is Sonora. Here, more than 80% of the urban areas use internet, and of the rural areas is about 50%. And from all the cities from that forman parte of these investigations, Hermosillo was the one that has more internet users with more than 88%. And about cyberbullying, this survey has a model about this that named Mosiba, and they say that more than 60% have had experienced some type of cyberbullying. And from this, the most vulnerable groups are the ones that are between 12 and 19 years old, and 20 and 29 years old. With both groups has 20% of the have been victims. From all of this, we know that we had some problems. The first one is that there are methodological limitations when it comes to accurately measure and study cyberbullying in Mexico. And the second one is that moral disengagement measures have been used in the context of traditional bullying, and we can talk about this risk factor um, like we want to do. And the third one is that the third problem is that there is a little research in Mexico and in the world that addresses bias-based cyber focus on the aggressors. And this results in our research question, that is, how are cyber moral disengagement and bias-based cyber related to cyberbullying in middle school students in the state of Sonora? My hypothesis is that cyber moral disengagement and bias-based cyber condition the participation of middle school students in the state of Sonora in cyberbullying situations. For this, I will use the concept of cyberbullying from Campbell and Bauman. That is an aggressive act carried out with the intention of damaging using a technological mean without necessarily having a reputation in time, imbalance of powers, or anonymity, or being public. These three things that are highlighted, that is repetition, anonymity, and imbalance of power, is because this is the things that are being talked about that the researchers don't agree about these topics. Is in discussion. And for this, we are going to use a socio-ecological model to understand cyberbullying. This theory is from Bronfenbrenner and is being adapted for the cyberbullying problematic and for bias. It's not bias-based, but it's a stigma-based bullying for Ch1. And the concept that we are going to use for mechanisms of moral disengagement is that it is a moral cognitive mechanisms with which reprehensible behavior is reinterpreted. And in this way, the individual keeps his moral principles and criteria balanced, perceiving his moral integrity despite having emitted the reprehensible behavior. And for bias-based bullying, we are going to use the concept about aggression motivated by a group of characteristics of the victim perceived by the aggressor, such as race, ethnic origin, sexual or gender identity, disability, religion, or weight. And these two concepts we are going to use these concepts on cybernetic context, because the characteristics of the integration offered by the technological media makes socialization different. And this results on general aim and specific aims. We are going to explain how cyber moral disengagement and bias-based cyber are related to the participation of middle school students in the state of Sonora in cyberbullying situations. Our first specific well, I'm not going to read the specific aims here because we are going to work with this on our papers. We are going to work in 4 papers. And the first aim, we are going to work with this. That is, our first specific aim is generate validity evidence for a cyberbullying scale in the context of secondary schools, students in the state of Sonora. For this, we are going to make this publication that is validation of a cyberbullying scale for school adolescents in northwestern Mexico. And we have 2 options for journals. We are going to talk about this later, I think. I have a proposal for a structure, and it's beginning with definition of cyberbullying, then prevalence and effects, connectivity, and cyberbullying in Mexico. Previous cyberbullying measures, talk about these previous cyberbullying measures, and establishing the Garay-Gordobel scale as optimal to achieve the aim, and then methodology, validation results, invariance results, and then discussion and conclusion. The aim of this article is generate validity evidence for the Garay-Gordobel cyberbullying scale, establishing its psychometrical properties in a population of adolescents enrolled in northwestern Mexico. The second aim that we are going to work with is adapt and validate a scale of moral disengagement in the cyber environment, cyber context, for high school students in the state of Sonora. For this, we are going to work a paper that talk about mechanisms of moral disengagement in the cybernetic context. And this paper, I don't have an structure yet, but we do have the results and some of the framework. And the third paper that we are working with is the factors associated with bias-based cyberbullying among secondary students in northwestern Mexico. We already sent this paper to the Journal of Early Adolescence. The aim that we are working with this is analyze the demographic variables that are associated with bias-based cyberaggression perpetration. The structure and the structure of this paper is bias-based violence, then bias-based cyberbullying, and the theoretical framework is stigma-based bullying model, then social identity development theory, Erickson's theory of psychosocial development, personal well-being, and moral disengagement. Then we talk about the current study, method, results, discussion, limitation, and conclusions. We try to answer to what extent do Mexican adolescents perpetrate bias-based cyberbullying? How does perpetration of bias-based cyberbullying vary by demographic groups? How are moral disengagement and personal well-being associated with bias-based cyberbullying? And how do bias-based cyber-aggressors feel when they cyberbully someone? And the fourth article, we don't have draft yet, and I am not sure what we are going to do with this, but because this is kind of the structure, and we do have the 2 predictors. The aim of this draft is explain how bias-based cyberaggression in cybermoral disengagement are related to the likelihood of engagement in cyberbullying, but I'm not really sure that how we are going to work with this structure. We can do this some progress, but progress is a program, I'm not sure, but this is all. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Denise. Doctora Cherry Bauman, please, your comments about this work.
Well, I'm very, very pleased with the questions that and the progress that Denise has made. These are, I think, going to make a difference, not just for Mexican scholars, but for scholars elsewhere, because they will see the importance of validating a measure, of conducting the kind of analysis that Denise has done for any measure, because you can't put any faith in your conclusions if your measure isn't adequate. So her interest in the psychometric investigations, I think, is both important and very well done. I am amazed at how well she writes in English. And as you know, the paper that was submitted is now invited for revision and resubmission, which is a positive note. And the reviewers were favorable and had some concerns, as is very typical. So I'm also pleased that her work is related and has a theme, so that she's contributing to a line of research and a development of the literature, rather than just all, different things. I think that she's done this very well. She has a great data set. Also, outside of this, I'm just very impressed with her initiative. She jumped on an opportunity to collect data with an international project. She's very motivated to me, and an excellent scholar. I wish I had more like her, A. And B, I wish I spoke Spanish so that this doesn't get to be so challenging. But the truth is, I think it's to her benefit for her career if she can publish in these English language journals that are just much more widely read. So I'm afraid I don't have much in the way of criticisms, because I think she's done such a good job.
Thank you.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Thank you very much, doctora Bauman.
De nada.
Pablo, por favor.
Gracias. Well, I totally agree with the opinion and the comments of Dr. Baum. I think the advances that he has presented today are very good, and they are presented in a logical and articulated way. Of course, there is no sequence of the articles, because he is presenting article from objectives 4 or 3, but I don't think that is going to be a problem. So I think that the work is coming very well. I just have a question. Maybe I should have done it before, but perhaps for the other articles, I mean, she presented a socio-ecological model, and my question is just if the model includes some kind of differentiation in terms of value or weight of the different dimensions, because you have micro, meta, the different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Are they weighed in a different way, or they have the same value for the analysis? It's just a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you could comment on that a bit more, elaborate a bit more, yeah.
This model work with all these systems, and the theory talk about every system This series talk about individual development. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And um, all the systems affect the development. That is the important thing of this individual. And I'm not sure, but what I think, and for the things that I've been read, is that depend on the problem, on the topic, because if we adapt this problem to this thing that is cyberbullying, some systems may have different weight. But if you talk about I'm not sure, but another kind of thing of problem have different weight. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this, but these do have different weight, but depend on the development on the individual. I'm not sure if I am explaining this.
And how are you going to use it? How are you using it?
We are talking about all these systems, but we are just working with individual system. That is the center of this.
Okay.
Because we do have things about family, but we can work with all this on this thesis. So for now, we are just working with individual aspects. That is moral disengagement and bias based.
And
Thank
I
you very
would
much.
add, yeah, I
Yeah.
would add this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting that this comes up because I'm working on a project and we had a very spirited discussion about this just the other day, and also about some more recent iterations of Bronfenbrenner's model. But most of the research seems to focus on the influence of microsystem elements, the family and the school. But to me, when we look at things like internet aggression, well, first you have to have internet. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have connectivity, and that's a larger system. And the biases are cultural. That's from another system. So we often don't look at those. We just say they're there. But as researchers, we focus on the individual and then what they call the proximal processes of, family and school. But I think as research develops, for example, right now we're hoping to launch a study of how all of these have been impacted by the pandemic in the US. We have the family system being affected. We have the exosystem of maybe the parents' employment disappearing or changing, and so forth. But I think that the typical research based on Bronfenbrenner's has looked at the microsystem of family and school. And I don't know how we weight it. Someone else asked that. So when you figure that out, I don't know if it's a fancy multi-level structural equation model, but I would like to know how much internet access, for example, affects how kids adjust right now to their new schooling. We have in the US up on the Indian reservation kids who don't even have electricity, never mind internet. So they drive, they've come up with this idea. They have school buses drive out in the middle of nowhere, and kids come in their cars, their family cars, because they have what do you call it, a hotspot in the truck. So the children are sitting in their car all day with a device. To me, that's very different from the child who has a very well connected home and a nice desk and a fancy, laptop. So I think we have an experiment that wasn't planned, which is the pandemic and how it's affecting all these systems.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk too much. I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, the interesting that we don't know how to measure the other systems, and maybe that's
Right.
why we don't talk about it.
Right.
But well, my coworkers with Dr. Vera, uh, one of well, we are working with this with neighborhoods, and
Ah,
it's not the EXO system, but we do have another systems. And Daniel, my coworker, is working with this, with neighborhoods, and I'm not sure, but with other systems that I don't work with.
what aspect of the neighborhood is he looking at? Is it
Sure.
socioeconomic or whether it's rural,
Violence
urban?
presence, I think, doctor, I'm not sure. Violence presence in neighborhoods. Yes.
Yeah,
Los activos de barrio son.
sí.
And if they had actives, I'm not sure, but this is the word we use.
Oh,
Well, I
thank
think
you.
this.
Thank you both. Dr. Perry, I'm glad to hear that you're working on that, which is a complex situation. And because we have to look at the model as dynamic rather than static, and in a more comprehensive, contextual comprehensive model. So this is it's a good topic to research in the future. So
Yes, so
thank you
cross your
for your,
fingers that we get funding. We're applying for
okay,
funding so we can do it.
thank you. Thank you both. That's it. That's my participation, Dr. Vera.
Okay. And Denise, please read my comments, please.
Okay. Mm, ¿Lo están viendo en la pantalla? Sí, ¿verdad? Um, I didn't translate this, but
Okay.
to put the name of the journal. This is one of the things that Dr. Vera asked me to do this, and I tried to do this on my presentation, but I think we need to discuss this. And the title of the contribution, I do this with the second article, but I'm not sure of the fourth. And for the article 2, he suggests to include the abstract. Okay, and the theoretical aspects and methodology. We do have this, but I don't put this on my work yet. And for the third article, well, this is one of the things that actual reviewers asked to do this, and it's talk more in the relationship on moral disengagement, well-being, and cyberbullying, bias-based cyberbullying. And the last thing is don't make confusion with the terms like cyberbullying, cyber violence, cyber aggression, or aggression, hate, bullying. Don't confuse these terms on my work. Thank you, doctor.
Ok, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos. Lo siguiente es colocar en el acta todos los comentarios para enviar a firma, para que sepa la doctora. Pablo ya sabe porque es el procedimiento que seguimos, ¿no? Pero que sepa ella que le va a llegar el acta, ¿no? Y que, thank you very much, doctora
Doctor,
Bauman.
no sé si dijo que íbamos a comentar sobre lo de los predoctorales. En realidad yo no conozco mucho del proceso, pero entre usted y el doctor me podrían comentar y después yo comentárselo a la doctora.
Sí, los predoctorales son una evaluación que sirve de insumo, sirve para que tú pienses, rectifiques o mejores el trabajo de tesis, ¿no? Entonces, el objetivo son de 3 a 5 preguntas que te ayuden a reflexionar sobre tu tesis. Ese es el asunto. 3 a 5 preguntas que te ayuden a reflexionar junto con un listado de bibliografía que pueda ser útil para contestar esas preguntas. Eso es lo que se pretende, que el trabajo de tesis se vea mejorado, se vea más terminado, sirva para el trabajo de tesis. No es un asunto de memoria o una evaluación a ver qué tanto sabes. No, es para mejorar la calidad de la tesis. Adelante, Pablo.
Sí, eso es. Y el otro punto esencial es que ahí demuestra el estudiante que ya hay materia de tesis, o sea, que lo que has estado trabajando ya da para la tesis. Es para poder decir, das el salto y va rumbo ya a poder defender, ¿no? Entonces, que haya materia, ¿no? Que es consistente y que es un trabajo digno de un programa doctoral.
Ahora sí traduce a Sherry,
Y
por favor.
vamos a tratar de realizar esto para, ¿cuándo dijo? ¿Para febrero o marzo?
Sí, a finales de febrero se va a enviar, ya que se cumpla con todos los criterios, porque necesita, bueno, ya tú cumples con todos los criterios, pero a finales de febrero ya vamos a estar en condiciones para que el examen sea en marzo.
Ok. ¿El listado de la bibliografía lo mandan ustedes mismos, los asesores?
Sí, 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 se te mandan las preguntas y algunos libros o algunas referencias que puedan ser útiles.
Ok. Ah,
Pueden incluirse o no, ¿verdad? Pero
ok. Como sugerencia. Okay. We are talking about that I will. Uh, you are going to send me on February 3 to 5 questions to for my that helps me on my thesis, and it's like an exam.
Okay.
And this exam, I work with this for one day. Every assessor send me this question, and I need to work with every assessor just on every questions one day, all the day, and at the end, I think I will end with like you are for assessors, and I will end like with for sort of essay or something like that. And also with these questions, you can add reference that help me to answer these questions, and that's all. This name is like pre-PhD, and it's like for make sure that I am ready to continue with my PhD.
Yeah, we call that a comprehensive exam, so we do that here as well.
Okay.
So give me when you know a date, give that to me so I can prepare.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe on middle February or something. Entonces, solo agrego a estos comentarios que tal vez debamos profundizar en alguno de los artículos un poco más sobre los sistemas del modelo socioecológico, ¿cierto? ¿Sí? Y yo ya no tengo dudas. Está apagado su micrófono, doctor.
Agradecer a la doctora Bauman por su presencia y su apoyo, al doctor Pablo Wong también, y a la doctora Peña, que no está presente, pero nos mandó sus correcciones, sus sugerencias, sus comentarios. Muchas gracias a todos y a seguirnos cuidando para evitar enfermarnos. Entonces,
Okay.
para que le digas a la doctora Bauman.
Okay.
Excellent job, Denise.
Thank you. The doctor said that we need to take care and for not being sick. And I don't remember, but thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, and I will see you later this week.
Yes, we are going to see you on Thursday.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye bye. Gracias,
Okay, I'm
doctor.
going. Okay.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.